In January 1871, inside the glittering Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, a new European power was proclaimed, the German Empire. It was a dramatic setting, because this new state was born out of war with France and announced on French soil. For centuries, German-speaking Europe had been divided into kingdoms, duchies, principalities, and free cities. Now, many of them were gathered into one imperial structure. But this was not simply the creation of a nation-state in the modern democratic sense. It was a federal empire dominated by Prussia, ruled by hereditary monarchs, and led by a Kaiser. From the beginning, the German Empire combined modern industrial power with older aristocratic politics. That tension would shape its rise, its ambitions, and eventually its collapse in 1918. The empire was not built as a single uniform country. It consisted of 25 states, including kingdoms, grand duchies, principalities, free Hanseatic cities, and one imperial territory. These states kept their own local rulers, traditions, and institutions. But one state towered above the rest, Prussia. Although Prussia was only one of the 4 kingdoms in the empire, it contained around 2/3 of the empire's population and territory. Its king automatically became the German emperor, or Deutscher Kaiser. This meant that Prussian influence was not just a matter of size, it was built into the constitution. Berlin became the imperial capital, and Prussian political culture, with its strong army and conservative elite, deeply influenced the character of the new Germany. The key architect of unification was Otto von Bismarck, the minister-president of Prussia and later the first chancellor of the German Empire. Bismarck had used diplomacy, military strength, and carefully chosen wars to bring most German states together under Prussian leadership. Austria, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein remained outside the new empire, which mattered enormously. By excluding Austria, Bismarck ensured that the new Germany would be led by Prussia rather than by the older Habsburg monarchy. The constitution came into force in April 1871, formally renaming the federal state the German Empire and giving Wilhelm I, King of Prussia, the title of German Emperor. Bismarck became chancellor, the head of government, and for nearly 2 decades he dominated imperial politics. At home, Bismarck's rule was full of contradictions. He began with some liberal reforms and worked with national liberals who supported unity, economic modernization, and stronger national institutions. But he also feared forces that might challenge the monarchy and the conservative order. One major conflict was the Kulturkampf, a struggle against the influence of the Catholic Church. Bismarck viewed Catholic political organization as a potential threat to imperial unity, especially because Catholics were spread across regions with strong identities and transnational religious loyalties. Yet the campaign did not destroy Catholic political life, in fact, it helped strengthen Catholic organization. Over time, Bismarck shifted away from liberal allies and toward more conservative policies, especially when he saw socialism as the greater danger. Bismarck is also remembered for pioneering social welfare programs. This might seem surprising, because he denounced socialists as enemies of the Reich. But his goal was not to create socialism, it was to weaken its appeal. By introducing social insurance, including protections for workers, he hoped to bind the working class to the state and reduce revolutionary pressure. These programs helped lay the foundations for the modern European welfare state. The German Empire therefore became a place where repression and reform existed side by side. Political socialism was restricted and feared, but the state also accepted that industrial society created new risks: sickness, injury, old age, and unemployment. Bismarck's answer was to make the empire appear both powerful and protective. Economically, the German Empire changed at astonishing speed. In 1871, it was newly unified and still contained many rural regions. But within decades, Germany became one of the great industrial powers of the world. By 1913, it had the largest economy in continental Europe and the 3rd largest in the world. Coal, steel, chemicals, engineering, and electrical industries expanded rapidly. Germany built Europe's most extensive railway network, which helped move goods, troops, raw materials, and people across the empire. Scientific achievement became another pillar of national prestige. German universities, laboratories, and companies were leaders in chemistry, physics, medicine, and engineering. The empire's success in the natural sciences was so striking that German inventors and researchers received roughly 1/3 of all Nobel Prizes during this era. Military power grew alongside industry. The German army became widely regarded as the strongest in the world, supported by conscription, rail mobilization, advanced planning, and a powerful officer corps. For a state born through war, the army was not just a defense force, it was central to national identity and political influence. The Navy was a different story at first. In 1871, Germany's naval power was small compared with Britain's Royal Navy. But over time, especially under Wilhelm II, naval expansion became a symbol of world power. Within decades, the German Navy grew into the second most powerful fleet after Britain's. This mattered because Britain saw naval supremacy as essential to its survival. German naval growth therefore turned industrial success into international alarm. Bismarck understood that Germany's new power made other countries nervous. After unification, his central foreign policy goal was to preserve the empire and avoid a coalition of enemies. He presented Germany as a satisfied power, not a revolutionary one seeking endless expansion in Europe. In 1879, he concluded the dual alliance with Austria-Hungary. In 1882, this became the Triple Alliance when Italy joined. Bismarck also fostered close relations with the Ottoman Empire and used complex diplomacy to prevent France, still bitter after defeat in 1871, from finding strong partners. His system was difficult to manage, but it had a clear purpose: keep Germany secure by keeping its rivals divided. For Bismarck, Germany's greatest danger was not weakness, but encirclement. Despite his caution, the empire eventually entered the colonial race. Bismarck had initially been reluctant, believing colonies could create costs and conflicts that Germany did not need. But pressure from business interests, nationalist groups, and global competition pushed Germany outward. The empire acquired territories in Africa, the Pacific, and China, building what became the world's third-largest colonial empire after Britain and France. These colonies were tied to trade, prestige, and strategic ambition, but also to coercion and violence, as European imperial expansion often meant domination over local populations. For Germany, colonies became a way of claiming great power status. Yet they also intensified rivalry with older empires and encouraged the belief that Germany deserved a larger place in world affairs. A major turning point came in 1890, when Bismarck was dismissed by Kaiser Wilhelm II. The young emperor wanted a more personal, assertive role in government and foreign policy. Under Wilhelm, Germany pursued Weltpolitik, or world politics. This meant a more aggressive and expansionist approach, a bigger navy, more colonies, greater influence overseas, and a stronger claim to global status. But Wilhelm's policies also abandoned much of Bismarck's careful alliance management. Instead of keeping rivals divided, Germany increasingly appeared unpredictable and threatening. Britain grew suspicious because of naval expansion. France remained hostile because of earlier defeat and lost territory. Russia drifted away from Germany and toward France. By the early 20th century, the empire was powerful, but increasingly isolated. In 1914, Europe entered a crisis after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. What followed was the July Crisis, a chain of ultimatums, mobilizations, miscalculations, and alliance commitments. Germany supported Austria-Hungary, while Russia backed Serbia, France stood with Russia, and Britain was drawn in after Germany violated Belgian neutrality. Italy, although formally part of the Triple Alliance, did not join Germany at the start and eventually distanced itself. The Ottoman Empire aligned with Germany. The German leadership hoped for a quick victory, especially in the West, where plans focused on defeating France rapidly before turning fully against Russia. But the plan failed. Paris did not fall, and the Western Front hardened into trenches, artillery, machine guns, and years of stalemate. World War I pushed the German Empire to the breaking point. The Allied naval blockade created severe shortages of food and essential supplies, causing hardship across the home front. On the Eastern Front, Germany achieved major victories and occupied large territories after the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Russia in 1918. But success in the East could not rescue the empire in the West. Germany's declaration of unrestricted submarine warfare in early 1917 helped bring the United States into the war, adding enormous resources to the Allied side. In 1918, the German spring offensive failed to deliver a decisive victory. By October, German armies were retreating, Bulgaria had surrendered, and Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire were collapsing. The empire's military and political foundations were giving way. The end came with the November Revolution of 1918. Facing defeat, unrest, mutiny, hunger, and political breakdown, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated. The German Empire was replaced by a republic, later known as the Weimar Republic. But the new government inherited disaster, a devastated population, military defeat, political polarization, and the burden of peace terms. The Treaty of Versailles imposed massive reparations, limited the German army to 100,000 men, banned conscription, and prohibited major weapons such as submarines, military aircraft, armored vehicles, and most battleships. Many Germans experienced the treaty as humiliation, even though the empire's own decisions had helped lead to catastrophe. Economic devastation, later worsened by the Great Depression, and anger over defeat in Versailles became major factors in the rise of Adolf Hitler and Nazism. The German Empire lasted only 47 years, but its legacy shaped the 20th century. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.